It started long before the headlines, before the courtroom, before the letter that shook the world. It began in a quiet moment, one that wouldn't have made the cut on any reality show reel. Garrison Brown, once known to the world as the quietly smiling son in the background of Sister Wives, stood in the hallway of his Flagstaff home, clutching an envelope in his hand. He was 21, full of questions, but most of all, full of pain. The letter was never sent. It was addressed to no one in particular, but the words scrawled across the top corner said it all. If I leave, will anyone notice? For years, Garrison had lived in the shadow of his father's fragmented dream. Kody Brown, once the self-appointed patriarch of a plural utopia, had built a world on rules, his rules, but as the family grew and splintered, those rules hardened. What was once love turned into control. For Garrison, independence wasn't just a coming-of-age moment. It was a rebellion, a declaration, a scream. This wasn't just a young man moving out. It was the start of a war inside the family, the kind that leaves scars nobody wants to admit exist. And what followed was heartbreak, exile, silence, and eventually court documents that would reveal just how deep the wounds ran. Because when Garrison tried to break free, Kody didn't just ignore him, he punished him. And Robin, she watched, she smiled, and she said nothing. The fight for independence wasn't about money or fame. It was about a boy who wanted to be seen by a father too blinded by his favorite wife to look up. This is the story they tried to silence. But here at Wives Exposed, we don't silence truth, we amplify it. It was supposed to be a simple call, just a father checking in with his son. But when Garrison picked up that phone, the voice on the other end wasn't the dad he remembered from childhood. It was Kody Brown, the enforcer. Garrison had dared to question the rules. He'd pushed back on Robin's favored treatment. He didn't bow to the family hierarchy anymore, and Kody hated that. What started as a check-in turned into an interrogation. Why are you speaking out? Why are you disrespecting Robin? Are you trying to destroy this family? Garrison stayed silent at first, but then something snapped. With a calmness that came only from years of swallowing pain, he replied, "You're not protecting this family, you're protecting your reputation." There was a pause, and then Kody said the words that would fracture everything. "You want independence? Then stay gone." The call ended. Just like that. No follow-up, no apology, no love. It was the last real conversation they ever had. Janelle later confirmed off-camera to close friends that Garrison sat on the edge of his bed for hours that night, staring at nothing. The silence was louder than anything Kody had ever screamed, and what came next wasn't rebellion, it was withdrawal. Garrison stopped visiting, he stopped answering calls from the production team, he started living a life completely off-grid, not just from TLC, but from the Browns entirely. And Robin? She defended Kody, publicly, proudly, even as her stepchildren faded from his life like discarded scenes from a bad script. A secret voicemail Garrison saved never aired, never released, until the court demanded every file. And what they heard, it changed the judge's tone forever. It was buried deep in Garrison's phone. A voicemail not saved in his inbox but tucked away in a private audio notes folder. It had never aired on TLC. It had never been shared on social media. But when the court ordered a full review of digital evidence submitted by Christine and Janelle, this file emerged. The courtroom was silent as the judge played the recording. Kody's voice filled the room, not angry, not loud, but ice cold. "If you keep speaking against me, Garrison, don't expect to come back. I'm done pretending you're still part of this family." The audience gasped. This wasn't a father protecting his family's unity, this was banishment. Garrison never responded to that voicemail, but the date on the file? Just 3 days before he changed the beneficiary on his military life insurance policy, removing Kody's name entirely. What hurt the most wasn't just what was said, it was how casual it sounded, as if Garrison had become disposable. Robin's name never came up in the message, but make no mistake, her fingerprints were on it. This voicemail confirmed what many suspected for years. Kody had drawn a line in the sand, and Garrison was never meant to cross it. Meanwhile, Christine, who was sitting in the second row, clutched her hands together, tears streamed silently, because she remembered something else, the day Garrison called her, right after getting that voicemail. "I think Dad just erased me." He hadn't said it with anger, he said it with quiet acceptance, and that's what shattered her. In the next part, we uncover Garrison's secret plan to free himself from the Brown family's financial web, including a shocking discovery in Coyote Pass property files. Coyote Pass was supposed to be a dream. For the Browns, it represented freedom, family unity, and a legacy. But for Garrison, it became something else, a trap. Behind the reality show smiles and drone shots of empty desert land, a paper trail was quietly stacking against him. Garrison wasn't just being emotionally removed from the family, he was being written out legally. According to documents unearthed by Wives Exposed, in the months following that final call with Kody, a legal adjustment was filed regarding Coyote Pass. One parcel originally listed under a joint Brown trust was quietly reassigned without Garrison's name. A legal expert later testified, "What we're seeing here is a strategic financial distancing. Someone was preparing to make sure Garrison had no stake if the land ever got developed." But Garrison was already 2 steps ahead. In private emails to a Flagstaff real estate agent recovered via subpoena, Garrison had been planning something of his own. "I want something small, no drama, just a space to work and breathe. No plural family compounds, no cameras, just peace." He was looking into a tiny house project off-grid, solar-powered, with minimal interference. It was modest but powerful in what it symbolized: control, independence, but more than anything, escape. When Janelle found out, she didn't stop him, she supported him, and even offered to help with the down payment. But there was one thing Garrison hadn't expected: a hold had been quietly placed on one of his joint accounts. When his agent attempted to process paperwork for land financing, the check bounced. Someone had locked him out, and that someone had access to family assets. The name on the hold, a familiar one, filed through a proxy. The email exchange between Robin and the family accountant, what it revealed about Garrison's removal from financial rights, and the single word that caused gasps in the courtroom. In the world of family law, there are few words more devastating than disinherit. It's not just about money, it's not about assets, it's about erasure. And when that word appeared, buried in a series of emails between Robin Brown and the Brown family accountant, the courtroom froze. The emails were submitted as part of discovery during the financial inquiry initiated by Christine's legal team. Most were mundane, updates on trust balances, property taxes, insurance renewals, but one thread stood out. Subject line: recommended adjustments post-departure from Robin Brown to name redacted, Brown family CPA. The body of the email was short, cold, clinical. "Given Garrison's ongoing estrangement, I suggest we begin the process of formally disinheriting him from all shared property trusts and future estate planning. We cannot allow emotional instability to jeopardize long-term planning." Let that sit for a moment. Formally disinheriting him, no call, no discussion with Janelle, just paperwork. When the judge read the phrase aloud in court, Janelle audibly gasped. Christine closed her eyes. Even the bailiff seemed shaken. Kody, he didn't flinch, he didn't speak. But Robin's eyes scanned the room, not with guilt, but with calculation, as if she were bracing for a PR storm, not a moral reckoning. To the outside world, this might seem like financial planning. To those who knew the Browns, it was punishment. Garrison didn't want control, he didn't want revenge. He just wanted to exist on his own terms. But to Robin and Kody, that was too threatening, too independent, too unloyal. And perhaps the most haunting part, attached to the same email was a spreadsheet labeled "Projected Trust Distribution minus Garrison." In the next chapter, Garrison finds out about the betrayal and leaves behind a recorded video never meant for the public. But now, it's court evidence. They played it in silence. No one spoke, no one coughed. Even the courtroom stenographer paused. It wasn't polished, it wasn't rehearsed, it wasn't meant for broadcast. Garrison had recorded it late one night, lit by a single desk lamp in his room. The file was labeled with a single word: archive, and for months it remained unseen until the financial inquiry into the Coyote Pass Trust was reopened, and Christine's legal team submitted it as emotional evidence of intent, abandonment, and psychological harm. In the video, Garrison looked tired. His voice was low but steady. "I know I'm not perfect. I know I've said things that hurt people, but what hurts me is knowing that I became disposable." He looked directly into the lens. "They didn't tell me I was being written out. I had to find out from an agent. Not even my mom knew." He paused, breathing shakily. I just wanted to be free. I didn't want to be famous. I didn't want to play a role. I just wanted peace. But I guess in this family, independence means exile. He smiled faintly, not the joyful kind, the kind that says, I've already given up. And then he ended the video with a sentence that would later appear carved into the base of a small memorial in Flagstaff. If the cost of being yourself is losing your family, was it ever a family to begin with? The judge requested a recess after the video ended. Even the opposing counsel didn't object, because how could you argue that a young man's desire to build a simple life should result in financial exile and emotional annihilation? Next, Janelle takes the stand, and for the first time, says the one thing she always protected Kody from. What she confessed made Robin visibly panic. The courtroom was unusually still. All eyes were on Janelle Brown as she took the stand, back straight, hands folded, voice low but unwavering. She had always been the quiet strength of the family, not the loudest, not the most dramatic, but when she spoke, people listened. The attorney asked gently, Mrs. Brown, when did you first realize Garrison had been financially removed from the family's estate planning? Janelle looked directly at the judge. Her answer was soft, but every syllable struck like a hammer. The moment Kody stopped calling him son, a wave of stunned murmurs swept across the gallery. She continued, he called Garrison that boy for months. He'd talk about how Garrison was disrespectful, how he'd chosen sides, but the truth is, Kody just didn't like that his own son stopped obeying. Her voice cracked, just slightly. I begged him not to do this. I told him we don't cut off our kids for having opinions. But by then Robin had him. She turned her gaze across the courtroom, locking eyes with Robin. She made herself the victim in every conversation, and he believed her. He always believes her. Then the room went silent, because the next question changed everything. Miss Brown, did you ever hear Kody say anything that made you believe Garrison's removal was premeditated? Janelle hesitated, then nodded. Yes. What did he say? She swallowed hard. He said, if Garrison wants to be a man, let him pay his own way. I'm not building a kingdom for traitors. That line hit the room like thunder. Even the court reporter momentarily stopped typing, and from the back of the gallery, a soft sob was heard. Christine head lowered, hands shaking. In the next chapter, Robin's mask slipped. An accidental mic capture catches her whispering something chilling during a courtroom break, recorded and entered into the record. She didn't know the mic was still on. The court had just gone into a 10-minute recess. The gallery buzzed with disbelief over Janelle's damning testimony. Cameras were powered down. Court officials loosened their collars. Even the judge had stepped into chambers for a moment of quiet, but Robin stayed seated, and so did a small clip-on microphone fastened to her jacket. Most assumed the audio had been killed, standard during break, but one technician, assigned to monitor courtroom feeds, kept the rolling audio active for syncing purposes. That's when it happened. Leaning over to Kody, Robin whispered, low, sharp, with a chill in her voice, he should have just kept quiet. We were going to fix the paperwork later. Kody didn't respond. He only glanced toward the press bench. But Robin wasn't done. It's not our fault he went rogue. He made his choice. Now we live with it, or let him go. It's that simple. That short whispered exchange, 16 seconds in total, was flagged by the technician, reviewed by the judge, and ruled admissible. When it was replayed the next morning in open court, jaws dropped, because this wasn't a woman mourning the loss of a stepson. This wasn't confusion. This was strategy, a premeditated plan, a calm, unapologetic acknowledgement of emotional exile, and the phrase that cut the deepest, now we live with it, or let him go, as if Garrison had been nothing more than a problem to be managed. The judge issued a rare comment, clearly rattled. This court is not in the business of parenting, but we are in the business of protecting the dignity and rights of those abandoned without due process. And then he turned his attention to Robin's counsel. Prepare to explain your client's intent. In the next chapter, the unsealed deposition from Garrison's military superior testifying to the emotional toll and isolation he witnessed firsthand. Until now, the courtroom had heard from family, mothers, siblings, attorneys, financial experts, but the next witness wasn't a Brown. He wore a military uniform, decorated, composed, a man who had commanded hundreds but had never forgotten one soldier. Staff Sergeant D. Reynolds, Garrison's immediate supervisor during his time in the Arizona National Guard. He wasn't there for drama. He was there because he had promised Garrison he'd speak if ever needed. The court allowed a sworn deposition, recorded just 2 weeks earlier. The screen lit up with his face. Garrison was a good man, quiet, didn't cause trouble, but you could tell there was something eating at him. He paused. We noticed it got worse every time he returned from a family visit. He went on to describe one particular drill weekend, 6 months before Garrison's final recorded message. He didn't sleep, didn't eat, said his dad wouldn't look him in the eye, that he felt like a ghost at home, said, quote, "They pretend I'm not even born." The room fell into silence again. Then Sergeant Reynolds dropped the line that would later be cited in legal commentary for months. "In all my years serving, I've seen young men come back from war with fewer scars than Garrison had from his living room." The judge leaned forward. Even opposing counsel didn't interrupt, and just when the room thought it had heard enough, Sergeant Reynolds added one final note. "He wrote me a letter, never sent it to his dad, said he knew it wouldn't matter, said he was building something they'd never understand, a quiet life, free from performance." Christine cried openly. Janelle clutched a tissue. Kody looked away. And Robin, she crossed her arms. In the final chapter, Garrison's last wishes, revealed through his personal journal, what he wanted, what he feared, and the truth he carried until the end. There are stories we watch, and there are stories we feel. For months, legal teams, family members, even journalists, had dug through documents, recordings, emails, and court orders, but no one was prepared for this. Tucked inside a leather-bound notebook, found in a drawer of Garrison's quiet off-grid home, was a single page, folded neatly, addressed simply, to whoever finally listens. It wasn't dated, it wasn't structured, like a legal document. It was raw, human, honest. Here's what the court allowed to be read publicly that day, the final words from a son who was never heard when it mattered most. "If you're reading this, it means everything finally cracked wide open. I wasn't the perfect son. I didn't smile for the cameras when I didn't want. I said no when I should have nodded along. And for that, I guess I was easy to cut loose. But just because I walked away doesn't mean I stopped loving them. I loved my mom more than words. I saw the pain in her eyes, and didn't know how to fix it. I loved my siblings, even the ones who stayed silent. I even loved him. Dad, I just wanted him to choose me once, but he didn't. He chose the version of the family that looked better on television. I built a life out here, quiet, but mine. I planted trees, I learned to cook, I kept birds, and every night I wrote something, because I didn't want to disappear without a trace. If there's one thing I ask, it's this: don't let them erase me. Tell the truth, even if it's messy, even if it hurts, because pretending I never mattered, that's what broke me." The courtroom didn't breathe. Not even the judge could stop the break in his voice as he looked up from the page. Garrison's words didn't just haunt the courtroom, they changed it. From that moment on, everything shifted. The judge ruled in favor of a formal injunction, preventing the family estate from being altered without full consent from all original named dependents, including Garrison. In a separate motion, the court acknowledged the emotional and financial harm caused by intentional omission, setting a precedent for reality TV family estates. But none of that undid the silence. None of it brought him back. Today a bench sits at the edge of Garrison's quiet property. It faces east, toward sunrise. Etched into the wood are his words, "Don't let them erase me." And beside them, a new plaque placed by Janelle, Christine, and the siblings, who finally understood what Garrison had fought for. He didn't want to be famous, he wanted to be free. If you felt this story, share it, because silence is the most painful betrayal of all. Let's make sure Garrison's story is never forgotten.